Hello, everyone. My name is Devin Myers. I work for an organization called the Hearing, Speech, and Deaf Center, also known as HSDC. My role here at this organization is I provide free services for the deaf and hard of hearing community. I help people with accessibility needs, talk about information and resources. I provide a variety of support services to the community. Today, we're going to be talking about emergency preparedness. The month of September is National Emergency Preparedness Month. So today, I'm very excited to introduce to you Jim House. He's going to talk with us today a little more in depth about emergency preparedness issues.
Hello, my name is Jim House. I am the Disability Integration Specialist for the Coalition for Inclusive Emergency Preparedness. Before I joined this program, I was like Devin. I was a client advocate at HSDC. Now I work for the state of Washington in the Washington Independent Living Council. So we set up this program, CIEP. Our focus is on emergency planning for everyone, not just deaf people or hard of hearing people, but all people with disabilities. And we have a focus on access and functional needs to make sure that everyone gets what they need to survive during and after a disaster. Every year, September is a month where we put out a lot of information on how to be prepared. We want you to be prepared for any disaster. We want you to be ready for any situation. It could be an earthquake. It could be a fire. It could be a flood. Could even be something like COVID. That one's kept us pretty busy recently.
So, why would you say it's important to be prepared for an emergency? And what might be some good ways to be prepared? Do you have some specifics, some things you can share with us so we're better prepared?
Sure. That's a good question, Devin. So in this month of September, we were focusing on 4 baskets. The first one is to be aware and pay attention. That's related to emergency notifications. It's how you know what's happening. The second is be connected. Work with people to share resources, share things that you need. Maybe other people can share with you, and you can all help each other out after a disaster. Also, be ready. Have a kit and make some different plans for different situations. So think about what might happen and be ready for that. So be careful and be aware and watch out about what's going around you. Try to keep yourself alive and healthy. So to expand on be alert a little bit, it's great to be knowledgeable about different means of information. It's how you stay aware of what's going on, and these notifications will give you time to react. If an emergency comes up, you know what to do. You should become familiar with these things. If you have a cell phone or an iPhone or any kind of smartphone, let's say a smartphone made in the last 5 years, for example, older than 5 years, this might not work. But if you have a modern smartphone, it should have what's called WEA, which means Weather Emergency Preparedness or alerts. You'll feel your phone vibrate, and it might be a different kind of warning. It might be telling you there's a flood or a hurricane. Anything like that, that's an important message. There's also a new app called Shake Alert. This app can warn you if there is an earthquake that's on the way. Now you have to understand, it only gives you a few seconds of warning. It's when these tremors first begin, the small tremors, it'll trigger your phone, and it gives you that few seconds of warning before the really bad tremors start. So it starts with the quiet tremors.
So you mentioned this app, Shake Alert. Now, is that app specifically for earthquakes and disasters related to that, or could Shake Alert be for different kinds of disasters? Like maybe, I don't know, maybe helping us to better recognize if a fire is coming or a flood is going to happen. I'm just curious about that.
Well, WEA is really broad. It covers a lot of different disasters, and it follows you wherever your phone goes. So if you travel somewhere and you're in a new place and a disaster happens there, it'll let you know. But Shake Alert is a new one. It just came out last year in California, and this year they're implementing other. It was 2 years ago. I think it was in California. But this year in Oregon, no, last year in Oregon, but now Washington State. So they're adding this functionality about earthquakes. Also, tsunamis, if you're near water. It'll give you some warnings about these type of topics. This was just a new app that was created for these purposes. Like, before it was Fire. They haven't put that one out yet, but it's coming. So keep an eye on that. Watch out for that. And also turn that on when you get it. There's another one about community notifications. It doesn't cover, well, I mean, it covers serious ones, emergencies, but also it gives you other information, warnings. For example, where there's a shelter, if you're in a place where you need to boil your water because your water is dirty before you drink it, these kind of things. These will come through this emergency notification based on your community, and you have to sign up for these. WEA is already in your phone, should be already there. But these community-based alerts are centered on where you live. So if you're in Seattle, then you have to sign up for the Seattle alerts. Also for the King County alerts. If you work in another county, let's say you work in Tacoma, then you should sign up for the Tacoma alerts as well. So get alerts for your home location, work location, wherever you spend a lot of time. Sign up for those. You can get them via voice or email or text, and those will all go to your phone. There's a whole list of places that are based on where you live. You can choose those from a list and fill those out online. It's pretty easy. Any questions so far related to what I've said so far, Devin?
No. Please continue.
So remember, you have the right to have an interpreter at any time during an emergency. If you need an interpreter, just request it. And usually there's no problem getting one for you. Except, maybe during the disaster itself, there might be many interpreters who are stuck at home. Maybe they're taking care of their families. So, there might be some chaos for the first few days, but be prepared to go without an interpreter. It means you might have to write a note, maybe text something on your phone and show that to someone, a little back and forth like that for a while, and then they'll search for an interpreter and they will give you an interpreter. So, another thing that I would like to share with you is related to the second basket, be connected. You should develop a buddy system. Do this with people that you see often. Your neighbors, maybe people that you see at the grocery store that you say hello to, people that you see at work or at school. Anybody who might be a good buddy for you in case something happens. And you can keep each other informed and help each other out. Also, there's a Community Emergency Response Team, CERT. This is very easy. So what happens is you take a 3-day training, and it's a lot of fun. You do various kinds of drills and practices about what to do. You learn basic first aid, how to use a fire hose, how to perform search and rescue, how to lift heavy things in case someone is trapped underneath them to get them out, how to help in many various situations. So you can get certified for CERT, but first you can also sign up for it and take more classes on your own if you'd like. There's lots related to disaster preparedness. You can get out there and help.
Is it possible to request an interpreter for that training, that CERT training that you mentioned? If someone wants to attend that training, could they request possibly some sort of assistive device if they need that as a hard of hearing person? Is it possible to get an interpreter for something like that?
Some places are more familiar with accommodations than others. But some places, might not be too familiar. It depends on where you live and where you volunteer. But if you let them know, just say that you need some type of listening system. You can also work with ODHH, the Office of Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services. They'll help you out for various accommodations. So you should develop a plan about how you can get in touch with your family, how to let people know that you're all right. The American Red Cross has a website which is called Safe and Healthy. It's probably in your area, just to let people know that you're fine. You can let your family know that you're fine. And also, when you want to get in touch, it's easier for them to get in touch with you if they are out of town. Sometimes people call into a disaster area and phone lines are down, or the phone lines are clogged. There's just too many people calling. They get a constant busy signal, but you might be able to call out. But at the same time, it's easier to text instead of using a video phone connection. There might be a lot of struggles with that. So texting would be pretty easy, just sending a text message back and forth.
Is it possible that sometimes, suppose like during an earthquake, if the communication systems are down, will texting or calling during these emergency situations, does it really depend on the communication system still being up and running for that to happen? Could you share maybe kind of what to expect if, suppose an earthquake hits in my area and there's a lot of issues? Could you talk a little bit about cell phone information or being able to communicate in that way?
It's possible to make connections, but there's kind of two things here. The first is a satellite phone. It's like a regular cell phone, but the satellite phone, well, cell phones are only like local. They connect your local cell tower. If the towers go down, that's a problem. So you can use a satellite phone. It's much more powerful. It sends a signal out to space to a satellite and relays that message. So that's one way. The other way is to study and learn how to become an amateur radio person or a ham radio person. You can get a license for that. Back in the day, there'd just be beeping, but some people changed that. They added some lights to it. So you could do Morse code if you needed to. But now you don't need to do that anymore. You don't need to learn Morse code. I mean, you can if you want. If you really get into it, you can set up something like this. It's not that expensive to buy this equipment. You can get your license from the FCC. So you get that license, and then you can communicate on the computer through the radio. It's not through the internet. And it's possible. I mean, if you get into it, go for it. So you should be ready. Think ahead. Prepare for things. Again, think about what if. What if this? What if that? I mean, if things, your documents get lost, if your important papers get damaged, what should you do? I suggest taking a picture of these documents now before anything happens. Anything that's important to you. Maybe a passport, driver's license, maybe your ID card, credit card. Take a picture of all these documents and cards, and if you lose them or they get destroyed, then you've got them on your phone. For example, I have mine saved on a drive, so I can plug it into a computer if I need to. Of course, if you have it on a thumb drive, make sure it's in a secure location so that nobody can steal it and get your information. Maybe make several copies and put them all over your house. In case you lose one, you've got a backup. Also, take a photo of your medications. If you have any pills or any kind of medication that you might have. So, for example, if you need to go get a refill because you don't have any medication, you ran out, you'll be able to get a refill based on the information at a shelter from that picture. You might also want to put together a go bag or an emergency kit. Have one in your home. I suggest having enough stuff in there for about 2 weeks. Non-perishable food, nothing that needs to be refrigerated, of course. Clean water, and enough for everyone in the house for up to 2 weeks, including pets. If you have a dog or a cat or whatever you may have, so bring enough food for them as well. So keep that in home if you plan to stay home. But suppose you might need to get out. Have something put in a backpack or in a suitcase, something that is portable, enough for 3 days worth. 3 days of food and water. That'll give you enough time to get to a shelter and get more food and supplies when you get there to a safe place. So there's lots of stuff to remember also. I mean, do you have a hearing aid? Make sure you bring extra batteries. If you have glasses, make sure you bring a backup pair of glasses if you can. If you have any kind of special equipment for a personal disability, bring that. Any batteries that you might need. Bring your charging cable for your phone. There are also special chargers that are solar. Those can help recharge your phone in emergency. There's some that use a crank as well. Those can recharge your phone. You can see those at camping stores. Lots of that kind of equipment's there.
I read that for deaf and hard of hearing people, some things that might be helpful to pack are possibly a pen and paper. That way you can use that for communication. And maybe to have a light that's battery operated, kind of like a little lantern. Because if it is dark, it can be really difficult for deaf and hard of hearing people because we rely so much on visual cues. Perhaps we are, doing some lip reading, so having that battery powered light would help. Can you think of other things that might be put in the kit?
Well, you can add, things that you might need. Maybe a strong flashlight. Yesterday I was on Facebook and one of my good friends was in a Hurricane Ida. So, it's been almost exactly 16 years since Katrina, right? Some things have improved since then. Some things are still the same, I guess. I don't know exactly. We're going to learn more about that later. But the point being that my one friend, he had a flashlight, and he had an empty 1-gallon milk jug, or maybe it was a quart. It was empty. There was no milk in it, and he put it on top of the flashlight, and it helped spread that light around. It was very bright, so it kind of made like a room lamp based off a flashlight. So if you go camping, if you're very experienced with camping, there are lots of little things you can do while on a camping trip that you can also use during an emergency.
You have to become creative. You really have to use your technology in a creative way. Use different things in creative ways.
If there's an earthquake or a really bad windstorm, you're going to have to be careful because power lines can fall. It doesn't mean they're dead. They could still be active. You need to stay away from fallen power lines. Don't go over there and pick them up. Don't do anything like that. You got to really watch out. Stay away from those for sure. Also, you have to figure out how to get clean water. If there's no clean water available, how can you get more clean water? You might need to boil water. If there's water that's not safe, maybe a pipe will burst. Maybe there's some contaminants in the water. So you need to figure that out and how to boil it. There are some drops you can put in some water, and then if you put those drops in and leave it for a while, it'll be okay to drink. And one thing about food, it's important to bring enough food, but don't forget a can opener. Lots of people pack their go bag and they forget a can opener and then they get stuck.
I was reading that sometimes it helps to have some money, a little bit of cash, because sometimes it's possible, the ATM machines aren't running. Or if we only have like a debit card or a credit card, you wouldn't really be able to use it if we don't have electricity. So would it help to have something like that, maybe a little bit of cash on hand? And how much do you think somebody should set aside for something like that? That would be in the kit. What do you think a good rule of thumb for that is?
Well, everyone's budget is different. What do you tend to spend in a week? But then you also have to account for disasters. Are you going to spend more or are you going to spend less? I don't know. It's really individual. But if you can save $100, $200 cash, maybe keep it in 20s, stick that maybe in an envelope perhaps, if you can. If not, just do as much as possible. $100 or whatever you can afford. Put that in there and just save it. So I want to let you know that my program, CIEP, it's open to anyone who wants to learn more. If you want to learn more about inclusive emergency preparedness training, for example, curb cuts. Like if you look at a corner, those things are good for wheelchair users, right? But everybody uses them. People on bikes, delivery people, babies in carriages. It's the same thing with captioning. More people can understand captioning. Everyone benefits, right? So it's the same idea with emergency preparedness. We really got to look into this, identify the different issues, discuss about these, and find out the good workarounds to use. People who work in emergency response are really happy with our work. We think differently than other people do in these situations. So we have knowledge. We know how to get around different barriers.
CIEP, is that an organization that if anyone wants to learn more, they could join? Could other deaf and hard of hearing people learn more by contacting you for more information?
I'll give you my email address and also the website. I'm happy to share that, and you can share that with anybody. So feel free to just distribute that. Anybody who wants to get in touch with me, please do. We have meetings once a month, give or take, depending on what's happening in the area. We're just doing Zoom for now, but hopefully we will get together in person again in the future. We'll see.
Do you have more ideas that you can share?
First of all, it's important to start planning for emergencies now. Start now. If you buy a kit, it doesn't have to be huge all at once. You can buy the pieces that go in your kit little by little, depending on your budget. also depending on your preference. Many ready-made kits already have food in there that you might not like. Or so maybe you want to change that around to suit your needs and suit the needs of your family. You might want to throw in a deck of playing cards. If your phone battery runs out and you don't have anything to do with your phone and you're sitting in a place and you're really bored, put something in your kit that might keep you busy and keep your family happy for a while. And you'll make it through any disaster that might come.
You're right. I think it's important that if you are experiencing some sort of emergency situation, it's really nice to have something with you that you enjoy. If you're only preparing for the absolute necessities like food, water, basic needs, but you're missing some of that enjoyment like books, games, it's important to have something that you can enjoy. Okay, so I think we're ready to wrap up here. I want to thank you again for your time. I really appreciate your expertise and your knowledge. So thank you so much and really have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for watching. We hope that you enjoyed our presentation. If you have any questions, any concerns, any comments, please feel free to contact us. Thank you.